3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy Trzewiczek from Portal Games.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 261. We're recording it on January 17th, 2023, Ignacy. That's not in the show notes. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And we are back after an extended hiatus for the holidays and travel. No one can stop us, Ignacy, as we do one episode after another, beating everyone's predictions for how long this podcast would last. Not even Tom Vassell. How you doing, buddy?
I'm amazing. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You'll hear all about my fantastic things that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And you had a long holiday, right? You were away on vacation or retreat, you called it?
Yes. After the Christmas holidays, I took my wife to mountains. We got a mountain retreat, and we were spending a couple of days in the nature.
Very, very nice.
Very, very cool moment.
Yeah, and of course I was on Podfather the cruise. Literally got back yesterday, 2 days ago, on Monday. It was fantastic. So tell us, Ignacy, what's now happening at Portal Games?
I think we can just play the episode from the last year because it's exactly the same. We are preparing for the PortalCon.
Yes.
Every year the same thing. Beginning of the year, big moment for us here at Portal Games, especially here in Poland. As you guys know, we are a second biggest publisher in Poland, and we are going to announce another great titles for Polish market from Portal Games. As always, we have this amazing venue that is a stadium, big football stadium for our disposal. We will have a keynote, we will have announcement, we will have demos of the new games. We have a secret release like FFG used to do at Gen Con. I think you remember that back then.
Oh, yeah.
They always had a secret game released just on site. So we will do the same this weekend for our fans in Poland. They get crazy when they see that. So the whole company obviously is super busy with preparations. We have a couple of last days, and this weekend, this Saturday, the stadium will start flying with our amazing fans and my team. So this is what's happening here at Portal Games for you, for our fans in America and Europe and other places. Just before PortalCon on Friday, one day before PortalCon, we want to give a highlight for our English announcement, for our English release. And on Friday, we will announce a new game from Portal Games that will be from Imperial Settlers Universe. It's a standalone game. I will talk more about this in the next episode, but this Friday we're announcing it, yes?
Why don't you have a guest of honor at Portal? I mean, besides you, of course, you need a very special guest of honor to be standing there giving a second keynote speech. I'm just saying, I don't know who would be good for that, but, maybe you should consider that for 2024.
I believe that I can afford a hotel and even beer and everything, but I don't know how much you would like to have for coming to Poland in January, because it sucks.
I do own winter clothes. I used to live in New Jersey. Remember that. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
So this is PortalCon, and as I said, for you guys, for our English-speaking fans, we will announce a new game this Friday. So check out our website and our social media, obviously. For the pre-orders and for the street dates fragment of the show, 11. By the way, finally delivered to the backers. I saw the picture of Mr. Steven Bonacor with his copy. I appreciate you. So yes, backers finally gathered their copies. So now we can finally start preparing street day, then preparing with distribution all the plans. So yes, you can now pre-order 11 from your favorite local game store or from Portal Games website. And in late February, it will be available through distribution in all stores in America. So this is 11. If you missed Kickstarter and if you see all the positive feedback, because the game has so positive feedback on the forums, I'm really blown away. If you see all this positive feedback, grab the copy before it lasts. And from the HQ what's happening, I'm keeping educating all the fans about the Forgal, our game found game. The Game Fund campaign start in March, I believe, so we have only a couple of weeks left. Then we have 11 sent to backers, very important. I'm still developing a next Batman game. And as always, I invite you to check ignacyciewczek.com. I'm posting regular. Yesterday, I was reviewing very old game, Northwest Passage from Matagot from 2010. So old game, but great game. So things are happening. Basically, next episode, I will talk more about this new game that we announced. I will have a street date for the 11. So basically, the year is starting, and prepare for amazing stuff from Portal Games.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. And at the Podfather Gaming, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, just got off of Podfather the Cruise. Unbelievable time. I was blown away actually by the people coming up to me and thanking me about how great it was. Because when you have a small group, 24 staterooms, about 43 people, I think, in total, everybody got to know everybody. Everybody had a meal with everybody and drinks with everybody. The last night, after you pack up and everyone's kind of sad that they're leaving, we had 20 people in the English pub on the ship. 20 people on a huge long table, all hanging out. So half of the people were just hanging out together, having a drink, chilling out, listening to the guitar player. It was such an amazing time. Everyone's saying, do it again. I don't know if we're going to do it again for now. Just letting everybody know it was wonderful. The cruise donated over $10,000 to charity, to Ukrainian humanitarian relief. Thank you. That was my goal too. I wanted to hit I wanted to hit 20 cabins and $10,000 mark, and we have exceeded, both of those, which makes me so very happy. Next week, I'm going to be in New Orleans to see some friends out there. So that's going to be fun. And between a couple of friends staying with us now, between the gaming on the cruise, between the gaming I'm going to do next week, because it's gaming friends we're going to see, it's unbelievable the amount of games I'm playing. I've never in my life, ever in my life, at conventions, anywhere, played as many different games, and I spent so much time gaming constantly. Everybody out there, a lot of people out there, think that you run a publisher, you're gaming all the time. No, you're like doing work. And you're playing like prototypes of people's, and that's a slog, and it's hard, and it's work. But it's like, this was just gaming. I got to play War of the Ring twice again. Remember last episode, I mentioned I had played it twice here at my house with my buddy Neil from New Jersey and Roy Canada of the Dice Tower. I got to play it twice on the cruise, which was wonderful. Played a rare 4-player game with my buddy Chad and myself, playing the Free Peoples, and Corey Thompson of the Dice Tower and Jeff Anderson, who was helping me run the cruise. He's of BGG Con and Cruise, etc. They played the Shadow. And then I played a second game, 2-player with Chad. Chad playing the Shadow, me playing again the Free Peoples. And I lost both games. But it was a great experience because I love that game so much. We played War of the Ring, the card game. Of course, I taught it to some new people. That's just always a winner too. Going to be in my top list of games for 2022. And I'm going to just run through this list because it's incredible how many games I played. And this is not all of them. 6 Nimmt, Bang the Dice Game, Cascadia, Cat in the Box, Code Names. We played it with like 12 people. The Crew, Mission Deep Sea, Electronic Catchphrase, which is still mass market game, 16-player game we played. Fantastic. First Rat, Flamme Rouge, Foundations of Rome, of course. Phantom Inc., like my current favorite party game to play. Picture Perfect, Quacks of Queldenberg, however you say that word. Ready, Set, Bet. Phenomenal racing game. Scout, must have played 10 games of Scout. So Clover, Terraforming Mars. I actually came in second against Sharks. I was so happy about that. War of the Ring, of course, as I said, and the card game, and then Witchstone. It was a fantastic week of gaming. It was a fantastic week of socializing, eating, drinking, going on excursions to Aruba and Curacao. What an amazing time. Maybe you're all jealous now. I don't know, but you should have come. Next year, maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do it just as we'll go on BGG at Sea. Maybe I should plug them a little bit. Jeff Anderson, BGG at Sea, coming up in July. Consider doing that one. Maybe consider doing Spiel at Sea, which is the one going from the UK, a few ports in Europe, and then going transatlantic, ending up in New York City. So you have lots of opportunities. Check those out. If you get a chance, fantastic. Or the Dice Tower Cruise, which is actually sailing right now as we speak. Meanwhile, we have a lot to talk about in the news. Oh my God, the furor. It's crazy. Let's get to the event deck. Oh, Nasi.
How to start? How to start?
How to start this? First of all, we will probably spend all of the news, and we have a lot of news actually. I've scraped so much news of other things. They're gonna have to wait. We'll see how far we go, because this is the nerd rage was big, but it's more than that on a lot of levels. And what we're talking about here is that Wizards of the Coast, right, a division of Hasbro.
Let me just start.
He's gonna start. Go, Ignacy. What are you gonna talk about?
Because we need to confess that we know about the industry, because in the previous episode we are debating and discussing what the phrase Dungeons and Dragons is under-monetized, what it may mean, and we were so wrong.
Oh, that it is under monetized.
Yeah, right? That is what they said, and
that's what they were saying.
Yeah, we were debating what it will be, subscription, blah blah blah, and then things happen and some leaks were. So yeah, we know nothing about monetizing.
Well, let's explain to everybody what's going on here. Wizards of the Coast is changing the business model for D&D on a few different levels, right? That's where this whole thing starts. We mostly talked about last week that they were going to go to a subscription-based model for content that they can provide digitally to you. And we said, like, well, this could be a good thing. The way that you pay for $15 a month for Netflix or $7 a month for Paramount Plus and Disney Plus, you don't have to go out and spend $500 on books. You get ongoing content with their new thing called One D&D. Sounds pretty good. I mean, potentially. Is it going to be good for everybody? Maybe not. Maybe people just want it all. They want it physically. They don't want to do both. Whatever the case, it was an interesting thing to discuss. However, the whole thing comes with one other major change, and that's something called the OGL 1.0, Open Gaming License. Now, what is this? The Open Gaming License is something that Wizards of the Coast published a million years ago, and it controls how other content creators can use stuff in their universe, right? Because we know that not only does Wizards of the Coast put out Dungeons and Dragons, there's 100, maybe more, small to very large companies, not Wizard size, but still very large, multi-million-dollar companies. I mean, tens of million-dollar companies. We'll get to them in a second, that put out 5e compatible stuff. And they use the Open Gaming 1.0 license to do so. So now Wizards is saying, well, you can't use that license anymore.
No. Let's be very precise.
Let's be precise. Ignacy.
Wizard is not saying that, but there was a leak that they wanted to say that. Let's be very precise, because they didn't say that, right?
All right. So, but we're going to get to it, because we're going to read at least some of this.
There's a lot of lawyers right now working in this case, so we don't want to get their attention, okay?
Well, all right, you know what? Before I say anything else, I'd like to say that I am not a lawyer. And if I was a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. So take no legal advice from what I'm about to say, okay? We have to make that statement. So a leak came out from Wizards of the Coast that was a draft of the new OGL, Open Gaming License 2.0. The document is staggering. Is it 900 pages? The old document, the 1.0, was 9 pages. The new one's a staggering 900 pages. I believe that's the number. Hopefully I'll see it as we go through this. Which means, like, almost nobody can read this. Let's face it, right? Nobody can read it and understand a 900 page. That's like a major bill in the US Congress. It could be 900 pages. And even that's crazy, a number, right? Used to have those old things showing like Ronald Reagan taking these bills and like throwing them like who's going to read this crap? And the bill was like
have that
a foot
team
tall.
of people. The one person reads from page 1 to 20, then from 21 to 70. Like you have that team of people.
So this has come out, and so let's. So the thought was, or the idea was, that no one was going to be able to now use, because that was going to go away. That was part of the leak, that no one was going to now be able to use the old 1.0 open gaming license, and this would cause potentially people who currently have products, maybe those would be canceled. I mean, there's so many ramifications, because can WotC unilaterally cancel the license even though the license says it is perpetual? It doesn't say it's irrevocable. All these crazy, potentially legal terms will be brought up in court. It's a guarantee. So how do we even start like the analysis of this? I think we've described the difference. It was OGL 1.1, by the way, not 1.0, I said, but it's going to be 2.0 when it finally comes out. So I think we've described where this thing started. How do we describe what the problems are?
Let's go through because as you mentioned, it's a huge document, but there's a couple of issues that the community and other publishers found the most frustrating.
Egregious. Let's use a great word. Egregious things.
Let's not use the words that I don't know. So first you mentioned that they said that OGL, the first one from the 20 years old, will be no longer active, and so this is
null and void.
And in this case, as you mentioned, the publishers of ongoing products say like, what the hell? Like we have it in print, we have it in stores. What happens? So this is one huge issue, especially that this OGL from the 20 years old had this word that I don't remember, that it is always be in action. Perpetual.
Yeah. But it did not say irrevocable, right?
But what perpetual means in English?
Perpetual means forever.
Yeah, this is the word. Yeah. So it means forever. So like forever.
But it doesn't mean
forever.
But can they revoke it, take it away? Even though it's perpetual, can they revoke it? There are competing words here. I mean, we're making light of a very serious situation, but lawyers will argue one versus the other in court at some point. So the first thing was, right, a company has something in print. Somebody has something in print. Can they now say, well, this has now been revoked. You now have to use this. Does it affect current stuff? Probably they're not going to be able to get away with that. But who knows, right? That now the courts will decide if they even were trying to do that. Can a current book, whether it's physical or
PDF,
an ebook, can it now be made to say, no, that's no longer valid. You have to take it away or change it. That was number one.
And then the people started analyzing this new document, and there was a lot of very interesting things. So first of all, WotC wants a share in your profits.
Right. Now, this is a great one.
Quite a big one.
So this is a great one. So the everyone who publishes this stuff under the open gaming license, now going to be 2.0,
yep.
2.0, they will be subject to potential licensing fees. However, only if, from what I can see, if the amount of revenue exceeds $750,000 per year in OGL products. There are, according to WotC, only 20 or less companies that are affected by this. Now, I don't know if that number is true, but $750,000, obviously you are at least a player, right? The biggest of all of those players, would be Paizo. Paizo makes Pathfinder. Pathfinder is certainly part of this licensing scheme and would be severely impacted by that decision. Now, and the licensing figure, apparently, again, it was leaked. We don't know how accurate the final document, this number will be in the final document. The creators making over $750,000 on their OGL licensed works would have to pay a royalty of 20 to 25% on the excess amount. So
this number is very high. For all of you who listen to the podcast, you always ask us what the royalties of the designers, what are the licensing fees, etc., etc. So let me tell you, this is a very big number.
Yeah, so let's just say Paizo is making $10 million in revenue. I guarantee it's actually more than that, but let's just say they're only making $10 million in revenue. They would then owe $2.5 million in fees per year to Wizards of the Coast. Paizo, a little unhappy about this, to say the least, and we're going to get to what their response has been. Yeah. We're going to get there.
Then there was another point besides the cash, besides the money, that all the users of OGL has to report to Wizards of the Coast their sales, what they are doing. Like Wizards has a full control over what competitors are doing. Right?
So you have to say that one more time. I missed that.
The Wizards said that the licensors have to report to Wizards what they are doing, what are the print runs, what they are distributing, like, so all the numbers and all the data Wizards want to see.
That's right. You have to, well, as part of the whole thing, you have to prove that you're not making or making how much. So you have to tell them, of course, what your numbers are, and then pay or not pay. And there were allegedly 3 tiers too, and I didn't understand what would, because only the top tier, major company. Well, I can see if I can find that language in a minute. The major company would have to pay the money, but they would want to know if you're a tiny player, a medium-sized player, or a big player. Maybe because they're going to keep eyes on you over time to see if maybe you jump up into different levels. Maybe it's that thing.
And then, as I don't have the user code open here, but I was briefing myself before the podcast, there was also information that Wizards will own the rights for this new content under the OGL. Did you see these fragments?
I absolutely did not. That they would own the content of somebody else?
You see,
I did not see. Oh, no, I did not see that. I did not. That's insane, but that's just insane. I can't imagine that's the case.
And then the community and the publishers reacted.
Then everybody reacted, and there's a crap ton of reaction to this. So the first thing to mention is that Wizards put out a statement. Let's make that on.
Yeah, that was after almost 4 or 5 days. Like there was literally there's this leak. The internet goes absolutely crazy, and Wizards and D&D Beyond silent, and another day silent, another day silent. I have here somewhere in the show notes print screen from official D&D Beyond tweet, official account that says, "We know that you are looking for our answers, but please be patient." Like they knew they have a crisis, but they didn't know what to say. So we're just asking everybody to be patient because there will be a statement. And there was a couple of days.
It took them days to make the statement. And finally they, I won't say buried it, but they put it on D&D Beyond. It wasn't like a press release, it was, they put it on D&D Beyond, which is officially a D&D site now, as we reported in the past. And I'm going to read that statement because it is interesting. When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with 3 major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Okay. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. Okay. No big deal, right? The third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. And therein lies the issue. Driving these goals were two simple principles. One, our job is to be good stewards of the game. And two, the OGL exists for the benefits of the fans. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. That was why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful content and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. All right. However, it is clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. Kind of cute. They fumble. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all these goals while still staying true to our principles. So here's what we are doing. The next OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build, and specify that it covers only content for tabletop role-playing games. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplay, VTT uses, not sure what that is, virtual tabletop uses, etc., will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. Okay? It will also not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. That's what you were talking about.
Yep.
That's what it looked like, and you're right, that they were going to be able to steal people's work. Now that's egregious. And I know the word you don't know, but really, if that was true, and it sounds like they're admitting it was true, that they were trying to F people over, at least on some corporate level. That thought never crossed our minds. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. All right, they're stating it now. This is an official statement. So this will always be looked back upon. I should copy, create, make sure I get this one for all time. We won't. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal, means completely clear on that point. The license back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly alleged that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. We will continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnership in films, television, digital games. That risk is simply too great to ignore. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to content you create. Your ideas and imagination are what makes this game special, and that belongs to you. Couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today. By the way, let me stop for a moment. This announcement was delayed like 4 days. They said they were going to announce. They had to stop. They were going to announce. They had to stop. So they haven't even announced the final thing, which they kept saying they were, and they're not going to release because we need to make sure we get it right. But it is coming. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our minds. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. The drafts you've seen were attempting to just do that. We want to always delight fans and create experiences together that everyone loves. We realize we did not do that this time, and we are sorry for that. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on the provisions work, on which provisions worked and which did not, which we ultimately got from you. Any change this major could only have been done well if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided, so we are sure. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Without knowing that, we can't do our part, blah, blah, blah. Finally, we appreciate the chance to make this right. We love D&D's devoted place. Okay, so from this point, at least they have done better, tried to make it right. Right? That's good, right? Ignacy, so far so good.
Almost, yes. Let's say that, yes.
Almost. And then there was another leak that I think you put in here, right? That if Wizards tried to squeeze more money from you with these D&D Beyond changes, how would you feel? Was this something?
Is from today. This is from today.
Okay, so this is not an official source, so I'm not even going to go here, right? This is not an official source. Somebody is saying it's going to cost X amount. They're going to deauthorize. So that's not official.
Yes, but it's not like a random Twitter account. It's like this already like this is not official, but it's another leak as the previous one. So we'll see. But the another leak says about the monetization of D&D Beyond. But what happens? We will talk in a moment about what Paizo is doing and all other publishers. But before even we go there, we can stop for a second or maybe a minute. Discuss one very interesting point, and we were making this point for years here in the podcast. And the point is that in a law, you cannot copyright the rules. And we mentioned that many times.
So many times, right? Rules, the way they're written,
everybody can
copyright.
release their own Hiroshima hex, and I will not be able to do anything because the rules are not protected. So the question arises.
Wait, Ignacy, wait. So the mechanics are not protected.
You can write the rule book in a new way, new words, better English, and it is your game now.
Yeah.
So now the question is, what exactly OGL gives us? Because if Dungeons & Dragons is set of the rules, do you really need OGL 2.0 or 3.0 or 15.0 if this is just set of the rules, like Hiroshima Hex, like Robinson Crusoe, like Terraforming Mars, and technically you can do your own Dungeons & Dragons. And people start asking this question, like for 20 years, OGL was a fact. Everybody was used to that. You have this OGL, you have a right to do Dungeons & Dragons, and you were not even asking the questions if you need to have this right. And now, when the whole mess with OGL 2.0 started, people started asking questions. Do we really need OGL in the first place?
Right, but there are. I read a really good article on what is protected completely and is owned by WotC versus what is stuff that you can openly use. So if somebody says, you roll 3 dice and it does damage, unprotected, right? That's a generic thing.
You roll 20. If you roll high, it's good.
Right, unprotected. But if it says, and I'm going to make something up, and I'm not a creative, so bear with me. But if it says something like channeling the powers of the underworld, this spell brings forth the deep demons to stand with you and come forth with magical energies that can only be stopped via the divine nature of a god. I just made up a ridiculously long
description of a spell.
Description, but a very thematic one, right? Yep. One that is creative. So you can't. That part of a book would be copyrighted.
This is exactly the case that if somebody decides to do their own version of Dungeons & Dragons and they end up in the court will have to decide if Dungeons & Dragons and this text is a creative or is it just the rules. And if this is just the rules, you can do it. If this is a creative, don't do it.
Don't do it. Exactly right.
And for 20 years, we didn't have this discussion because there was OGL, everything was for free, and nobody cared.
Right, exactly.
And now we have these amazing discussions.
Now we have this incredible discussion. So, in response to this, besides the nerd rage that they literally lost thousands, tens of thousands of people have canceled their D&D Beyond subscription. that part was going crazy and those people were going crazy for various reasons, including the subscription model potential, which nobody knows what it's going to be and how it's going to work out because it's not announced. And because of they're siding with the creators and they're going to say, screw you, WotC, we're going to now play some other system. The hell with you. Paizo and friends made a huge announcement only 5 days ago. And that announcement is Paizo announces system neutral open RPG license, a new OGL that Paizo is creating. Industry-leading independent publishers seek return to open gaming. This comes out of Redmond, Washington, 5 days ago, January 12th, 2023, in response to rumors that an upcoming revision to the Open Gaming License, OGL, by Wizards of the Coast would deauthorize this keystone of the modern tabletop role-playing industry. Paizo has begun work on a new, open, perpetual, and irrevocable open RPG creative license, which they're calling ARC, Open RPG Creative License, ORC, ARC. Since 2000, the OGL has improved the community, incubated creativity, and grown the business of not only the licensees, but the licensor. A stated goal of a perpetual and irrevocable OGL was to ensure the establishment and longevity of gaming networks and to drive sales to both. Recent interpretation notwithstanding, it succeeded. Many companies, including Wizards of the Coast, have benefited from that growth. The Open RPG Creative License, ORC, will be built system agnostic for independent game publishers under the legal guidance of Azora Law, an intellectual property law firm that represents Paizo and several other game publishers. Multiple leading publishers have already signed off to the efforts to create a new and truly open license that allows all games to provide their own unique open reference documents that open up their individual game systems to the world. And there are complete details found on Paizo's blog. Let me interpret that for you. Paizo said, bleep you, Wizards of the Coast. And they are spending, I read a little bit more on it, they're spending their own money. They're spending their own money, and this is going to cost millions of dollars. Let's face it, this is going to be a huge amount of legalese. This is going to be their own 10-page legal document. Maybe it's 50-page legal document to say, everybody, you can now use this document when you create stuff because this document will ensure that you're protected. And to the ICV2 article on this gave a little more color about who is involved, and I'm pretty sure I saw this in here. Ignacy, did you see the major companies that are in here? I did not see it, but it's going to be.
Press, I think.
Say it again.
I think Cobalt Press.
Cobalt Press, Monty Cook Games, Green Ronin, all of the next guys who are about the size or a little bit smaller than Paizo, but these multi-million-dollar companies are all going to jump on board. They're going to put out their own ORC or OGL, new version and get together to not be subject to this. My biggest comment on the whole thing is that why would Wizards have done this without bringing in these big guys in the first place to say, hey, guys, we're going to make these changes. We're going to do this, this, and this. We want you involved to work on this with us, right? I mean, that would have been the thing to do. Bring in the guys that will be most affected by this and therefore make them happy that nothing's going to hurt them. I mean, they started with the royalty structure, which I guess if they would have mentioned that in the beginning, Paizo would have went crazy to begin with because they're going to owe millions of dollars a year. But the whole thing just reeks of corporate stupidity, just corporate stupidity. And look, I'm not against big corporations at all, but the whole thing is just. Do you remember New Coke back in like the 80s? Coca-Cola tried to come out with something called New Coke.
I had a Cold War here in Poland. 80s.
I'm very
Russian.
sorry.
We had
Very-
Russians, not,
you
not
had
New Coke.
you had what was going on. Yes. Well, Coca-Cola tried to change the formula, the taste, right? And basically, they did study after study after study, and people liked Pepsi better than Coke all the time. They always, and like in every time it was put in front of people, 90% of the times, people chose Pepsi. Blind studies. They weren't showing you people what they were. They said, well, screw this. We're changing the formula. We'll make it taste like a little more like that or a lot like that. Their sales plummeted. Crazy. Why? Because those who like the flavor of Coke, that's the flavor they wanted.
Yep.
Even if, blind thing, the flavor of Pepsi was better to the majority of people. They went crazy. Their sales fell off the table. Pepsi gained market share like crazy. And literally the executives went, what the did we just do? They then said, guys, we heard you. You're good. Don't worry. Here's Coke. It's back the same way. But we're just going to have this other product called New Coke. So if you want that flavor, we have that one. But our original flavor, it's back. We love you. We listen to you. It sounds exactly like that, what is happening. Corporate stupidity at its highest, thinking that they're smarter than the consumer. Sad but true.
This is terrifying because for the past 2 years, we are reporting over and over about the massive success of Dungeons and Dragons, record sales, record popularity. Stranger Things is bringing this to the mass market. Everybody's playing Dungeons and Dragons, celebrities playing Dungeons and Dragons, the great income. And then they say, you know what? It's undermonetized. Let's try to get more out of it. And now they started all these discussions. They started all this revolt of other publishers. Like, obviously, I assume, and I guess you assume that as well, that they will somehow, use their public relations team. They will fix it. They will try to, make it back. But they made so much mess, and they started people thinking about the backup plans and different ways to create the role-playing games. When everything was so good and there was great revenue, but they wanted just more. And
yeah, that's it. They said it was undermonetized. Well, he may be very undermonetized after they get done with this. Anyway, guys, that's our very long discussion of this, and there's so much going on. Stay abreast of what's happening by looking at the sources online. Try to find the ones that are unbiased. They're giving you facts, and then they'll interpret to a certain extent. We're not the only ones out there. Of course, we hope that we're giving a good perspective, but go check it out. And in fact, we're going to ask you to do that in our play testing segment. So stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, let's first get over to strategy and tactics. All right, Ignacy. So let's take a few questions here if we can. First one's from Mario Sousa, who's at Ms. M Spider _89. Hi, hello everyone, audience and host. I started to listen to you guys close to the infamous episode 100 and have been having a lot of fun since. Thank you so much. 3 questions. 3. I don't know, Mario. Can I give you 3? We'll give you 3. Since we are close to Essen at the time of this writing, I wanted to ask, how do you work, or did in the case of Stephen, with people outside Portal or Stronghold to help on booths? Do you have volunteers, hire outsiders, or only work with company team? And if you go outside, do you have a system to look for people? Well, let's start with that one. And I'll start first. When Stronghold was small, it was like friends. And then Stronghold got bigger, and we'd ask for volunteers and people. We would compensate them with lunch and games and things like that. And then it got bigger, and then Envoy stepped in, and we use Envoy at every one of our conventions within the US because that's where they have their presence. Envoy is a nexus of gamers, publishers, stores that they kind of bring everybody together and say, hey, you want to help out companies? This is the compensation that they will give you. Ignacy, you do a little bit of both. You have internal people, and of course you use some external people, including Envoy, I think.
Yeah, this is exactly the case that for some of the, especially American conventions, I use Envoy because they have amazing database of players, and most of these volunteers, absolutely most of them were absolutely brilliant. I don't know how they curate these people, but they're absolutely great people. And for Europe, in most cases, we have people who were with us back Essence, so from previous years, And each year we also give a shout out on our social media, and we say, hey, if you are going to Essen, if you want to help us out at our booth, please contact us. And each year we have 2 or 3 new people who are fan of our brand, fan of our games, and want to be part of this family. So this is a little bit of everything. But if you are a publisher, if you have your Facebook page, we are good to grab a couple of your best fans and have them as a team, care for them, be best for them, give them a lunch, give them some games, and they will be part of your family forever.
Right. So Mario's second question: how is the best way to teach show games? How is the best way to teach or show gamers a game? I don't understand this question, Ignacy. Can you interpret it? I'm sorry, Mario. We're gonna have to skip that one. I didn't quite get it. It wasn't quite perfectly written. If you are approached by someone who wants to be part of the industry but not designing a game, what kind of things do you expect a person to bring to the table? Which kinds of areas of expertise? I get this question all the time. Like, how can I get in? What skill sets can I bring to bear? Ignacy, which are the skill sets that the average person?
As for today, Portal Games Poland has a we are looking for the salesperson. So exactly as for now, if you are living in Poland, you would be able to work at Portal Games as a salesperson. So board game companies are like exactly like every other company. So we have a marketing teams, we have a sales team, we have a warehouse team, we have a logistics, we have developers. So the fact that we are designing games, in fact, is the smallest department of the company, our developers. Yes, I have now three developers. My marketing team, my sales team, my logistic team is much bigger than developers. So I could easily change my profile and start producing, for instance, clothes. Just exchanging these 3 developers. But on a serious note, yes, if you're working at a company as somebody, you most likely can work as this somebody at the board game company. As simple as that.
I think that there are some limitations. Like if you're an infrastructure IT guy, like I was, it wasn't necessarily that I was going to be able to get, because publishers don't have big infrastructures. They don't have huge servers. Everything is out there.
Actually, I have, but yes, you are right. But for instance, for the companies like Lucky Duck Games, who do board games merged with apps, or like me, that I have a detective that has this Antares website, I have a full-time dude just to manage servers for Antares and the new Batman games, new Dune games, and he is full-time dude because when we are releasing detective in 12 languages, managing these 12 servers, this one server, but these websites and updates. So I have full-time dude just for the servers, emails, basically working. So yes,
it's
but
possible.
You are right, obviously, yes. But obviously, if you are a policeman, maybe you will not work at board games company.
Yeah, right. So it depends on the size of the company too, of course. I think that the most useful skills, I'll go through those: marketing people,
sales,
graphic designers, customer service. Everyone needs customer service, at least one person who's answering emails and doing fulfillments on parts or one-off fulfillments. Yes. Convention and trade show managers. Everybody's got one of those. That sometimes, it's you do that with your customer service, for instance. And project managers. Project managers are a big one. Almost every company has to have someone that's going to be, okay, we're about to do another game. Let's get the spreadsheet out, or Microsoft Project, or whatever you use to say, oh, the task ready. Did Joe do this task? No. Well, that's a critical path that he's got to get that done. Oh, Mary's on this one, but she's doing something else right now, and it's okay because she can wait until Joe's done. You got to have all that scoped out, and somebody manages those things. It's not Ignacy.
I have two people in the company.
There you go. All right. That's good. We're running long because of all the great news we had to talk about, or great or crazy news we had to talk about. So let's get down to play testing. So Ignacy, last week, you asked, what New Year's resolution dedicated to board games do you have for 2023? Will it be to play more old games, buy less games, support your favorite publishers, be more or less active on BGG, create some fan content. So what did our fans say about that?
In general, as we could assume, they said they want to play more games and buy less games, or in other words, buy the games they already own. As always, I picked a couple of special answers. So our fan Paul Owen said, I have several. First, I want to cool my collection by about 15%. I like the fact that he has a precise number.
That's great.
That he exactly knows how many games he needs to get rid of. And then he said, I want to play an old-fashioned war game again, at least once. I hear you, sir. I play my war games from GMT, and I love this experience, so I'm with you here. Then he said, I want to sign a game design with a publisher that will actually publish the game. So I sense him some unfortunate story. We've signed a game that was not published. So Paul, we wish you the best that your next game will be published. And then he says, and a stretch goal for his resolutions, I'd like to run a role-playing game for my family. And this is great. I support that. This last week, I played a role-playing game for my friends. After 2 years break, I came back to playing role-playing games, and it's amazing. So Paul, I wish you the best, and I hope that you will have these things done this year. And the other answer that I picked is the one that I agreed the most, and Mike Wallachie said, complete more of the campaign games I have partially played. I have stayed away from backing or buying more campaign games because I have so many partially played. And I hear you. I have here on my Kallax, I have one Kallax, 2x4, so eight shelves with only campaign games that I need to finish. This is disaster. These campaign games are amazing, but they need so much time to finish. And I feel you, and my resolution will be the same. I want to play at least a couple of games this year. So this is what I picked. What you picked?
So yeah, continue. I don't think you mentioned Rick Fuss. Basically said the same thing. My big board game resolution is to start and complete some of the campaign games that have been sitting around on the shelves too long. You didn't pick his, right? This is it's almost the same exact one. Yeah. I mean, that's a great one, right? Because we all have that, right? I mean, how many? I have Gloomhaven.
This is all full of Rob Daviau. He came up with this idea of Risk, Legacy, and these campaign games, and now we all suffer.
It's his fault. Rob, you're not a listener, I bet. But if you were, shame on you. No, it's such a great idea. We love them, but we have the time to get them and to try to plow through them. Adrian Patterson says, I would like to paint more minis in my games. I managed to get through Morning's Call, Deep Madness, and Destiny's figures and Mosaic Buildings in 2022, but we'd like to do Ankh, SMOG, which one is that? And Solomon Kane in 2023. Seems fairly daunting. I mean, he's he or she is that's a lot of painting. I don't paint because I don't got the eyes, patience, or talent to do so. And the last one is Dan Sturza. He says, my wife and I will do our 4th 10x10 challenge this year, but including more older games since we previously skewed newer. Also play every game in our collection at least once, which is 180 base games, or we will get rid of it at the end of the year.
Oh my God.
Keep the collection slim and make sure we still enjoy everything we own. Now that is a daunting challenge. That's huge. So he's going to do...
Dan, if you have any games from Portal Games, please play them this year. Don't get rid of them. Please, my friend.
So he's going to play 10 games 10 times, right?
And
then play every one of the games, the other 170 games in his collection at least once. That, sir, is huge. I wish him all the luck in the world to try to get that done. So my question now for next week is based directly on what we talked about quite a bit. And I bet we're going to get a furor on this. It's going to be crazy, but let's say it. I'm going to try to keep it so that people stay civil on it. So after reading the below articles and others that are fair and unbiased that you may have found regarding the new Wizards of the Coast OGL 2.0, What are your thoughts? And I'm listing a bunch of articles here that some of which we directly quoted from. Maybe there's some more stuff that comes out between now and when you read this and can answer that. Let us know your thoughts about the entire OGL 2.0. And I want to note, please keep it civil. We're friends here. We just want to see if any of you have more insights than us, because I'm sure you do. Maybe you're in the industry. Maybe you're a content creator right now using OGL 1.1, right? 1.1 is what people calling the current one. What are your thoughts on the entire thing? Ignacy, I mean, I think we've given our thoughts, so we don't have to give any more. So we're just going to take this and put this out there right now. Ignacy is going to create that thread for you to answer this question. Please go to our guild on Board Game Geek and find our playtesting thread for this question and post your answer. And we'll all be reading your thoughts next week. Keep it civil out there. We love you. Final scoring coming now. Thank you all so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or you can now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. Do you want to be part of this podcast? You can. Just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek, and also answer our questions to you from the playtesting segment by going to our guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Check out our websites, which are portalgamesus.com and podfathergaming.com. We are all over social media, so interact with us, please. On Facebook, please like our pages, /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy and Steven on Twitter and Instagram @PortalGamesUS and @PodfatherGaming. And the very active YouTube channels are Portal Games Movies, Portal Games Gameplays, and the Podfather of Gaming. On TikTok, Ignacy is Portal Games US. We look forward to seeing you next year, this year, 2023, this year. Please come to a convention we're going to be at, and please come up to us. Tell us you love the podcast. Tell us you hate the podcast. Tell us what you think. We love to hear from people at conventions. Board Games Insider is now professionally edited by Joshua Bowen from Tabletop Submarine Podcast.
Hello, Joshua.
Joshua.
Thank you.
This will be the first one he edits. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, you can reach him at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. I'm actually making the change because I still had the Matthew thing in here as well, so I have to move that. Thank you, Matthew, for all the work you have done. Also,
Matthew, we already miss you.
We miss you, buddy. Listen to his podcast too. This Game is Broken podcast. It's amazing. Also, that great voice you hear doing our intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Ignacy, that brings us to a close. Anything else you want to add?
Today, no. I will be much more with the amazing news next time after the PortalCon. But before PortalCon, I cannot spoil too much.
Oh, okay. News will be out about Portal Games on the next episode. For now, thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.